and welcome to episode 3 of Real. We hope you're enjoying our second season. I'm your host, Kalani Fisher. On tonight's program, we will explore identity through love and loss in the community. Now, what exactly makes up identity? Psychologist Sigmund Freud believed it had to do with the unconscious mind. But who really knows what makes up identity? It's a topic which has endless research but limited answers. The films we have for you tonight will show how people explore their own identities. Amanda, directed by Christine Knight, is about a teenage girl who is a self-indulgent drama queen. Let's check it out.
So hilarious. I told her to sing wear that. She may as well drop dead. Hang on a second. Olivia? What do you mean you have nothing to wear now? Hold, please. Sorry about that. Olivia, total wardrobe malfunction. Anyway, it's on the 5th of June. Olivia, can you hold on a sec? Emily?
This is Amanda. I like to think the trend of using all her electronic gadgets at once stemmed from a somewhat indulgent childhood. Instead of a tub of Play-Doh, for her 5th birthday, Amanda received her very first computer. At age 6, rather than the Polly Pocket Tea Party set, Amanda had to settle for a mobile phone. And at 7 years old, when most other children were out capturing butterflies with their new bug catcher nets, Amanda finally got her very own television. It may not have been the 72-inch she wanted, but for the meantime, thought Amanda,
it will do.
Don't get me wrong, Amanda was like most other children her age, spending Saturday afternoons playing at the local park. Amanda experienced things most teenagers would. Her first crush was Michael.
Oh.
Michael Jackson, that is. But when it came to relationships, Amanda never quite understood why she hadn't found Mr. Right.
Sorry, babe. It's pretty nice, really. Emily! Oh my gosh. He did not. That is so adorable. Oh, it's been too long. Way too long. No way. Oh my God.
As time passed and her friends grew older, Amanda stayed the same.
No. The 40 gigabyte with the wireless upgrade.
Ready?
Until one night, something quite peculiar began to occur. For little did Amanda know, the world in which she lived was about to change.
Where's my phone?
Baffled by the disappearance of her possessions, Amanda continued to notice changes.
My car?
It took some time before she was ready to face the invaders.
Take this to Emily.
She grew fascinated by the things that surrounded her. She had never noticed them before, yet they were always there.
So beautiful.
For Amanda, her world was now as it should be. Well, almost.
What a charming little short film that was, and definitely a little bit of truth with that short film too. Now, Amanda was directed by Christine Knight. Our next film is vibrant, colourful, and will take you beneath the wig of a drag queen. What a Drag is directed by Megan Crozier. Let's take a look.
I started singing when I was a kid, and I also started, showing off, I think is how you probably start. But I think you're born wanting to perform, and then if you decide to carry on with that, I did musicals for years and years of Rocky Horror. For me, making up Dolly Diamond came about when I was living in London and getting a lot of work as a male vocalist and cabaret performer. But finding it really hard to get as much work as cabaret performers that dressed up as women were getting. They were getting a lot more money and a lot more work, and there's two things when you're performing that you kind of rely on. I was working with this woman who said, why don't you do drag? And people had suggested it for ages. And I thought, I really don't like the stigma that goes along with it. More so probably back then. So I thought about it and then thought about it again and then decided that I would do it.
I went to see the doctor and I asked him what was wrong. He said, I need a sample, fill this up and don't take long. I said, you must be kidding, do you think I am a tap? And how is pissing in a cup the best thing for the clap? STDs and STIs are really quite atrocious. When you get a nasty itch, you need a quick prognosis. If you catch it fast enough, you're sure to find relief. STDs and STIs will give you so much grief. You know what I mean? Okay, so my name is Darren, and I do the performance of Que Sera, and I've been doing Que Sera for about 15 years. My concession to making my act legitimate as a performance is to sing live and to parody the songs. So I take well-known tunes and change the words so that they have a bit of commentary behind them. That's my act. The interesting thing about drag, as opposed to transvestism or the pantomime dame, or even acts like Dame Edna, the interesting thing is that drag is born in the community and is seen as being part of the community. So drag queens almost are owned by their community. And I really like to sort of draw a distinction between the Danny LaRue type acts and the Dame Edna acts, because ostensibly they're straight men who do this kind of like act, this which has elements of camp. But I think the difference between that and drag is that drag really is, it's camp culture gone crazy.
Shall we mention that?
Yeah, why not?
I think working on the radio, I do a Wednesday drive show called The Royal Daltons, and that's as Michael. And I've made a conscious effort not to talk about Dolly Diamond, because mainly for the fact that I don't normally talk about Dolly really, unless I'm trying to get, I'm Dolly's manager, obviously I have to look after, the bookings and, making sure that the bags are packed, because she's not a real. And but on the radio, I don't talk about Dolly, because I'm just more of aware of the fact that people are listening to you, and if you start talking about other people as well, it just sounds like you're trying to sell everything at the one time, And also, I want people to like what I do. I was offered a gig in Cardiff in Wales, and I went down to the local high street and got myself a pair of heels, which probably back then were about that far off the ground. Now they're that high. And just got myself a sort of black sequined jumpsuit, had on my black wig, put on the false eyelashes, which I found incredibly difficult and probably still do. I probably have more glue in my eyes than on them. And decided that I would go on stage and be ready, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the first time I ever did it. It was a brilliant gig. I definitely, in the beginning, looked more like Liza Minnelli. Don't really look like that now. Everybody would say, oh, you look like Liza, which didn't really bother me, because I kind of, I like Liza, so it would have been worse if they'd said I looked like someone I didn't like. So that's basically, for me, how Dolly started, and that was probably about 14 years ago, I think. I'm not very good with years. I'm 22. And so it was a long time ago. It's changed a lot since then, though.
Testing. We're just doing an interview?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Like, you have to have the whole name, your drag queen name is kind of like the difference between you and the other queens. So, so I spent ages, and we came up with some very funny names, my partner and I at the time. One of them was Rose Hip, which I thought was quite funny. I mean, it has to have that kind of double meaning, because that's kind of that's the culture of drag, the campness, And there was a very funny one we called Charity Balls. So, but none of them kind of gelled. And then I was in the shower, and actually we just studied the film, the Alfred Hitchcock film, The Man Who Knew Too Much, I think it's called. Anyway, it's got Doris Day in it. And the theme song for that is Que Sera. So I was in the shower one morning and I just, started singing Que Sera, and I thought, oh, that's such a funny name. Does it look okay?
Of course, you look beautiful.
Do I look different from myself?
Yes.
I don't feel that different. I feel like it's just me a little bit more extreme,
But you know each other well, though.
That it's, it's a really kind of the ultimate kind of protest performance. And so that kind of using your name to slap convention and society in the face, or to take double meaning from something, that's very much part of that kind of that drag protest movement.
To remind us he's straight. He's such a contradiction when he wears Italian suits to the local bar. Everyone that gives him, no matter what he does, 'cause he's a football star.
So can you tell us a bit about Dolly? What are her personality traits? She's quite different to you as such.
Yeah, Dolly's very different to me, and it's difficult to try and describe someone though. But I believe Dolly thinks she's very, very beautiful, and yes, I'd say she's probably in her mid to late 50s, and just a very sparkling personality. Has Dolly shaped Michael? No, I don't think so. They're two completely separate beings. And Dolly gets away with a hell of a lot more than Michael would. Gorgeous!
What an interesting look into the lives of drag queens. Now that was What a Drag, directed by Megan Crozier. Definitely an eye-opening piece with such a colourful topic. Now, to our favourite part of the show, we're joined again by Senior Lecturer of Cinema and Media Studies, Dr. Gabrielle Murray. So good to see you again, Gabrielle.
Hi, Kalani. Great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Now, my first question for tonight, what did you think about the identities of the characters?
Look, I think the most interesting thing about this film is that there's quite a lot of documentaries around about drag queens, and I think a lot of people have actually seen shows with drag queens. What this little film actually gives us is right from the individuals getting prepared, putting their wigs on, as you noticed,
yes,
doing the makeup and presenting themselves. The thing that's fantastic, I think, about Que Sera is that you see Que Sera before you see
yes,
Darren, and they are almost unrecognisable. And I think that's interesting, the way Michael too talks about the fact that he doesn't see Dolly Diamond as really having very much relation to him at all, except he manages Dolly Diamond.
Yes, what I loved about that was seeing the process of the makeup being put on to then the transformation of each persona as the drag queen, which was really interesting to see, and I must admit I've never seen that before. Now, how do you think the documentary captured the life of a drag queen?
Look, that's an interesting question, because really we are looking at a short documentary, so we're only given so much time to really understand, experience these individuals. For me, the interesting thing about this particular film is that you get two very different understandings and stories about how they created their ulterior identities, their drag queens. One, from Michael's perspective, is very much about himself as a performer who's looking for a different way to make money, is really what he's saying, and to get an audience, etc. So that's really why he says he first starts using drag. Que Sera, I get much more of the idea that it evolves. You know, there's a story of wanting to create a persona of singing in the shower. One assumes the gradual construction of the clothing and the wig and the makeup, etc. And also that Darren talks about drag as being something that evolves out of the gay community, and also talks about the kind of rebellious and confrontational kind of stance that can be.
Yes. Now, in terms of how the documentary was actually put together, what do you think of the documentary in terms of its production?
Look, you've asked me that about another documentary we saw. I was thinking about The Black Line, and my thing about this little documentary and that one as well really is that there's nothing incredibly new or creative so much in the production values, but it is understandable because what we are seeing is some incredibly engaging figures. So on some levels, it seems justified that we have a fairly, you know, conventional format in which these identities are sort of allowed to reveal themselves. On some levels, I might have liked a little bit more of Dolly Diamond performance, I think.
The performances are very entertaining.
Absolutely.
I loved the music in this documentary, and I loved how the credits even closed with that, you know, amazing kind of music that you were kind of just like, oh, I want to watch more of this. In terms of the cinematography of the documentary, how did you think that went?
Cinematography, let me think. I think still, as I was probably saying before, it doesn't do anything extraordinary, but what it does do is it takes us into some of the different realms. So we see Michael where he works at Joy Radio.
Yes.
We see Que Sera in the kind of back studios of the similar area. We see them both kind of doing practice for their performance. We see Michael putting on the makeup. And then we do see that fabulous ballroom sequence and some of the big band shots. So I think on some levels, it's fairly standard, but it does give us a feel for the environment.
Yes, lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Gabrielle. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kalani, for having me again.
No problems, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Of course.
Well, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for tonight. Thanks for joining us again for this episode of Real. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you the same time next week as we explore belonging. I'm your host, Kalani Fisher. Keep it real, Melbourne.